Podcast U is brought to you in part by Wirecast. Lets you stream professional-looking broadcasts from any location with just a camera, computer, and an internet connection. TV production without the TV budget. Wirecast 4.2 available now at www.telestream.net/Wirecast. Gorilla Printing can fill all of your digital printing needs, from trade show banners right down to business cards. Check them out today at gorillaprinting.ca. Well, it's time for Podcast U. Once again, my name is Richard Cleveland. I am your host on this fine feathered evening, a Wednesday night. Cold as heck here in Calgary, Alberta. With me this week, and looks like he's going to join me in the future as well, Mr. Nick Craig from RadarGaming.net. And we're going to be talking about equipment, podcasting equipment, how to get started, and continue on from what we were talking about last week. And I kind of ran over my intro there, but that's okay. So I want to say hi to Nick, and Nick, you are right there. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
I am getting older and grayer, and I'm not getting any better looking.
Yeah, I think you should say that at the beginning of each show.
You know,
that
might be a great opening. I think we might have to do that. We had an old school chum of mine who is in the chat room tonight, and I'm knocking things over on the desk. Who's been teasing me about my look from the 80s and 90s. So, and you went and found the picture of me from the 80s and the 90s. I'm not happy about that. I'm not happy about that.
I didn't. Okay.
Okay, so let's get to our topic of the night. We are talking about podcasting equipment. We're going to talk about mixers. We're going to talk about microphones. We're going to show you what I have here in my setup. We're also going to have a look at what Nick has in his setup. We're going to be answering your questions in the chat room tonight. We have a fair amount of people in the chat room, and I'm happy to see that. We'll see more as the night goes on. Show will run about an hour as it did last week, and that's pretty much it in a nutshell. Oh, Jake says, this podcast is perfect for me. Yes, it is perfect for you, Jake, and we're gonna try and answer your questions. So let's get to the heart of what we're talking about tonight. Now, tonight we wanted to delve into the equipment that you heard us talk about last week, and you don't need all of this equipment. Am I right?
Yeah. Here's the thing with the show. We're going to be showing off equipment that, you know, we didn't just get overnight. This is stuff that we've built up over time and stuff that we've invested in. So equipment that you see on this show, don't just think, well, I have to go out and buy this right off the bat. So that's, you know, buy what's in your budget.
That's right. And the best thing to do is decide on what you want to spend, because this is a hobby like any other. You might find yourself get bored of it after a short period of time. You might find that this is the most exhilarating thing you've ever done, and you know we want to be there to help you along the way if that's what you choose to do. Tonight, as you can see, we've got this funky background, and thanks to the fine folks over at Telestream, they provide us. Let me see if I've got that lower third up. No, wrong one. Here we go. This is a green screen back here. And tonight this show is being brought to you by Wirecast. If you're interested in video switching software for your computer, whether it be a Mac or PC, you can check out Wirecast at www.telestream.net/Wirecast. Download the latest version. Try it out for yourself. There is a watermark on it. I will tell you that straight up front. Try it out, see if you like it. You can use it with a webcam, a computer, and an internet connection. And we appreciate everything that Telestream does for us. So here's a little bit of a behind the scenes that you can see here. This is a green screen that we have, and of course we go into the black corner and other computers and things like that. And we're going to take you for a little tour about that. So let's start. Pardon me. I'm burping on air. How rude. You ever have? Oh, you were drinking on air earlier. You were slurping.
Yes, I was drinking hot chocolate, but I've stopped for the show.
Okay. All right. So let's get into mixers. You've got a mixer that is something that most people should start with, I think.
Yeah, and this is it right here. This is the Behringer Xenix 502 mixer. As you can see, it's a small format mixer. It's only got one XLR, so if you need more, if you're gonna have, you know, two or three in studio people, you know, right off the bat, this isn't gonna be the mixer for you. But for most people, I believe that this is a very good mixer. You can get them for about $50 US, and let's see if I can do a close up of this. You have one XLR, two stereo channels in, and then your main out. It does not have an aux in, but as you can see, you've got nice volume control knobs there.
Now you also have a record in and out on that, do you not?
Yeah, you do. You have the CD and tape in and out, which you can run headphones in, or you can run your computer's input too, so you can kind of makeshift the mix minus.
Okay. There you go. Now, for those people who don't understand mix minus, we're going to get it. That's an advanced topic that we're going to get into a little bit later on in an upcoming episode. At the end of this month, I should really point out that at the end of this month, we're going to do a roundtable, a Google Hangout roundtable with podcasters from around the country, both in Canada and the U.S., and hopefully we may have one from overseas. And we'll be talking about podcasting equipment. Dennis says, I see what Richard was talking about with regards to mixers. Even my Xenix 302 may work for a one-person podcast. That's absolutely right. And yes,
And
Tanya,
actually,
go ahead.
go ahead. I was just gonna say, and I used this 502 up until about 3 or 4 months ago, and I've been doing this for almost a year and a half. So you can, you know, do more than just, you know, you can have you have your one studio mic like this, but you can also have, depending on how big a Skype call is, you can have 3 or 4 or 5 other people on if they're all in Skype.
That's true. And we've been discovering lately that you can have, even with a very small mixer, you can have a Google Hangout running, doing a mix minus, and sending back audio to them. You're going to receive their audio, and you'll be able to stream it out for very little money on a small little mixer like that 502 that you've got.
Yeah, you don't need to go out of control when you're buying your first mixer. I definitely think that, you know, it's something that you shouldn't spend a lot of money on, but I know personally I've made this mistake of only going up one ling of the ladder, or one you know, ladder step each time, and not, you know, taking that big leap, because, you know, this 502 is like $50 or $60, and then the 802 I upgraded to is, I think, $80. So you know, I've only had that for about 3 months, and I'm already outgrowing it. So buy for more than what you currently need, so that when you
I'd
do
agree
want to
with that.
upgrade, you don't have to, like, when I get my new one, I'm gonna have 3 mixers here.
Now, Duke makes a good point. He says he has a 302 Behringer mixer, and it's a great little mixer for what he does. He doesn't need a lot of inputs. You know, he can bring in his Google Hangout. He can stream that over the air, and he says it works great for him. And I agree with you. It's not the size of your mixer that counts; it's how you use it. And if you're only bringing in one extra audio source, unlike me that I bring in, you know, 4 or 5 different audio sources, and in the studio here we have 3 mics currently hooked up. We have the ability to have a fourth, and we normally do that as well. And I'm still on Nick's shot. There we go. So we'll move to my mixer, which is a little bit bigger. And as you can see here, mine is much bigger than what you saw with Nick. This is the Xenix X1622 USB mixer from Behringer. As you can see down along the bottom here, I have it all labeled. These labels represent what sources are coming into this mixer. Because I'm an old broadcaster, and, you know, I like to do the radio kind of feel, I like to have a little bit bigger mixer. Now, this mixer wasn't that expensive. It was only about $269. So this allows me to not only do a mix minus by these 2 faders right here, the red and the orange, but I can also adjust the left and right pans on the stereo channel, so I can make them either a left sounding channel or a right sounding channel. I can bring in stereo or mono inputs. There are some effects on here. I'm not a big fan of effects on boards. If this board did not come with effects, I would have been just as happy. It has a nice feel to the sliders. It will also allow me to have studio monitors, so I don't have to always wear my headphones. And that's kind of a nice feature for myself. The only drawback to that is if it's too loud, those people that are talking and coming in over that particular channel, like a Skype channel, for instance, Nick Craig, it might get picked up by your microphone just because of the bottom end in his voice. So that he might hear an echo back when that happens. So you want to be very careful about that. I typically would only use the studio monitors if I was mixing music or I was doing a voiceover for something and I wanted to hear back what I'd already recorded without having to wear my headphones. So that's a good look at my mixer. What you were going to say something about that?
Like you said that you using those speakers, what those are good for is if, for example, you're in a Google Plus Hangout with somebody, you can throw music or another podcast or something on in the background, and you can make it low enough that you can still hear it with your headphones on, or maybe only one ear on, and also still be talking to your guests on Google Plus or whoever you're talking to on Skype, and you can just control the levels through that. So it's really useful for that.
That's actually a really good point, and I agree with you because I typically do that a lot. I'll pull one ear off so that I can hear what's going on around me as well. Now, let's get into the microphone and we've talked about this in the last two shows. The microphones that you and I both use are $40 microphone. They're very inexpensive. The stand that my microphone is on is more expensive than the microphone itself. Actually, the shock mount was more expensive. Actually, it wasn't. The mic, it was more expensive than your mic because I paid $80 in Canada, but that's because I get free healthcare. You only paid $40 for yours in the U.S., right?
Yeah, actually, I got mine on sale for $35 through Amazon when I originally bought it. So it's a great deal, and you can get this mic. Depending on the day, you can get this mic anywhere between $45 and $30.
Yeah, absolutely. And in Canada, if you're a Canadian, you want the microphone. The microphone is the Audio-Technica AT2005 USB. I'm going to say that one more time. It's the AT2005 USB. You can pick it up on Amazon. You can pick it up at most local music retailers. In Canada, it retails for around $80, $85, depending on where you go. The beauty of this microphone is that it not only uses USB, but it also uses XLR, and that's how we're running into the mixing console that we have here on the desk. Is we use the XLR, but if we so chose, I could actually run a USB cable out of this microphone at the same time and run it directly into a computer.
Yes.
Okay. So USB is the way to go, Joey's asking. What do you say about that?
I know some people are gonna laugh about this, but I personally don't like any USB sound devices. I always seem to have issues with USB sound devices. I don't know if it's just the computers that I've had experience with, but I always manage to hear some kind of noise in the line on USB.
I've had that experience, but not nearly as much as you've had, especially lately. You've had a whack of problems with USB. However, with this mic, and I will tell you, Joey, that USB is the way to go when you're starting out. But I would say to get a microphone that has both USB and XLR. And look around, check the reviews, listen to people, find out what they're using. The reason for that is that if you decide to grow the equipment that you have in your podcasting studio or your home studio or wherever you decide to do this, you've got a microphone that is so versatile that you can plug it into your mixer, or you can put it into a little bag and take it with you on the road with your laptop and plug it directly into your laptop, and it acts like its own sound card. The other nice thing about these microphones, and I know I'm sounding like an advocate for Audio-Technica mics, but you can actually plug in your headphones to this microphone. So as a sound card, it has both those capabilities.
Yeah, which is really great.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. So, for the dollar value, in the U.S., it's $35, $40 for this microphone. In Canada, it's twice the price. It's $80 in Canada. And I wouldn't be without it. I mean, you see a lot of guys that are in the podcasting field now, and they're all about, the SM7, the Shure SM7, which is a $400 microphone. The Heil PR40, which is a $350 microphone, $325. What's another very popular one? The Rode Procaster, another $300 microphone. These are all great microphones. The RE20, that's the one I was trying to think of. All great microphones. However, the boils down to cost. Is this a better microphone than a $300 microphone? Certainly not. Is a $300 microphone going to make me sound better on the internet? Probably not. So for the money, what I would say is if you're looking for a microphone to get started, get with the Audio-Technica USB line.
Yeah, and actually in the United States, they have raised the price of the 2005 up to $50. So currently, the 2100 is $5 or $10 cheaper.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Tanya was saying that she wants a good cheap mic, that she's just starting out and she doesn't want to pay $80. Well, then what I would say to you is there's several other microphones out there that you can buy for, well, not really here in Canada. I mean, the Blue Snowball, what's the Blue Snowball sell for?
I'm not even going to comment on that because you don't want to buy that mic.
Yeah, you don't want to buy that. But
here's the thing: if you're stuck at an $80 price point and you can only find really terrible quality mics under it, then I hate to say it, but you have to increase your budget because a lot of people make this mistake. They buy the Blue Snowball, and I don't even know how much it is, but they buy that mic, and instantly once they either get a few viewers or people start talking about their audio, they get right rid of it because it's a piece of junk.
Dennis makes a good point here in the chat room. He says if you're going blue, get the Yeti, nothing less. Sadly, that's $150 mic, and he's right. So for $80, get yourself a better mic. It's a dynamic microphone, and we're going to get into dynamics and condenser microphones when we have Mike Phillips on the show in a few weeks. And we'll talk a little bit more about the differences between them. If you're in a home studio, get a dynamic mic. They don't pick up a lot of surrounding noise, and for the money, they're pretty good. I mean, the Bullet microphone that I think most musicians probably have in their arsenal is going to be the Shure SM58. That's a rock and roll vocal microphone. You've seen them a million times. They're out there. They're a great little microphone. They're only, $60, $70 if I'm not mistaken. And you can plug them in. What they lack, of course, is that ability to have that USB connectivity. But they are a bulletproof mic. I mean, you can swing those things around like you were swinging a club.
Yeah.
Have you ever used the SM58?
Yeah, my school has a few of them.
Okay.
And I like drop them downstairs and whatnot, and they're fine.
Joey says he wants a Bob Barker stick mic. Now, I don't remember what the name of that mic is, but if Mike Phillips was on the show tonight, he'd be able to tell us.
He'd have one.
I think he does have one.
Yeah.
One or two of them. Mike Phillips has just about every mic out there. Now, let's talk about processing for a minute. We've all seen what I've got here, and I've kind of got to that level where I want more equipment. It's kind of like an addiction. But you're still at the level because of your age, for the most part, that you don't have all the toys. In your opinion right now, do you think you need audio processing?
No. For me right now, I'm worrying about, I'm paying attention to the audio, but it's not something that I'm, obsessing about. For me right now, I think that people need to worry about the content.
I agree.
And, you can go out and spend tens of thousands of dollars on the equipment and have all these flashy lights. But if you're not going to bring any quality content to the table, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how much you spent. People aren't going to listen or watch if you're not providing quality content. And I think that's step number one once you get some kind of a setup. And that setup could just even be just this mic plugged in USB. Then you're ready to start working on the content.
Yeah, absolutely. And with the software that's out there, there's Audacity, which is free. It's open source. There are people making plugins for it, so you can get all kinds of different sounds if you want. You can change the pitch of your voice. You can do all kinds of stuff. And now Adobe, and we talked about this last week, Adobe has released CS2 on their website for free. So anything that was in that CS2 suite, including Adobe Audition 3.0, which is an industry standard software application, you can download for free and get updates for it. So I would highly recommend that. It's a little bit of a steeper learning curve for audio editing in that software, but once you get it down, it's definitely the way to go. And Joey says Bob Barker's mic was the Sony ECM51. So there you go. Says thanks Google search for that. All right, so let's get back to, we were talking about audio processing. I'm going to show another picture here of my setup, and I'll see if we can turn that a little bit. Okay, so what we have here is a audio compressor, which is on the top, and it's a multifunction tool. It's a compressor, a limiter, and a gate. What compression does, that's what we typically hear when we're listening to our FM stations. They're highly compressed. Everything is, very tight. You don't hear a lot of those excess sounds. You're not hearing a lot of the breath sounds. You're not hearing a lot of background sounds. The limiter and the gate also help with that. The gate will shut things off when you stop talking, so that if there is any excess sound in your room, it's going to take that frequency and it's going to cut it right off. The limiter, what that does, of course, it gives you a little bit of freedom so that when you talk, it's not starting so sharply and it's not ending as well so sharply. So you've got a nice smooth transition in, a nice smooth transition out. I want to welcome Amnon and Gregory to the chat room. Thanks for joining us tonight, guys. Down here, I've also added an Edirol recorder. This is what I use as a backup audio recorder. Some people might say to me, well, why do you do that? Why don't you do it in software? Funny thing is I'm the type of guy who actually does record in software and record in hardware. So I like to have that double backup just in case something should go wrong. Not that I've ever had a computer shut down on me in the middle of a show where I've lost a recording, but I will say this, that having that extra little audio backup really helps out. What about you? How do you do your workflow?
For my podcast, I currently use Wirecast, and I record and broadcast with that. And I just want to comment quick on your audio, what audio recorder it is.
The Edirol, yeah.
Yeah. Personally, if you're streaming to, if you stream to Justin TV, they automatically archive any of your broadcasts. So let's just say I've actually had this happen. I've been in the middle of a podcast and the power goes out, so I lost the recording. And luckily for me, Justin TV was saving was archiving it, and then I could go into my control panel and download that part of the episode. So if something does happen and you're streaming to Justin, they got your back.
Yeah, that's very true. Although sometimes I've found with these guys, and I don't know if you found this at all, but I found that the last time I went to try and get something, they had already broken up my episode. So I had to go back and try and stitch all those broken pieces back together. So it was a real editing nightmare.
Yeah, it depends on when your account was first created. Since my account was created in late 2010, I've got features that other people don't have. So all my recordings saved to just one broadcast.
So you're kind of grandfathered into what they've got going right now.
Yeah, and like some of the newer channels, they have pre-rolls, and the older channels don't have, like your channel, since it wasn't created like yesterday.
You're right.
They don't have pre-rolls, so.
Right. Okay, so let's move on. People ask me, why do I have so many computers? How many computers are you running when you do a show?
When I do a show, I run anywhere from 3 to 4 computers, and people look at my setup like this, and you can see 3 monitor, actually 4 monitors here, and they assume that I'm running 4 separate computers, but that's not necessarily the case. So for my podcast, I run anywhere between 3 or 4 computers.
Excellent. Well, I'm not far behind you. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and we also have an iPod, so I'm going to classify that as 8 computers that we run during the show. One now obviously has been put down, and we are using that strictly to do our editing on, and we lost Nick's video, but that's okay. So we're doing editing on one computer now. That's all it does. It really kind of takes care of our editing and voiceover work and all that other kind of stuff. We have one that we just recently built that is strictly for doing what we're doing tonight and streaming the show to you live over the internet. So that's what's being used there. Now, I also have another computer over here that I use for all of my sound effects. And let me see if I can show you that. So if we go up, way up, just like the Friendly Giant, and you see that monitor that's on top, that actually is running what's known as a virtual cart machine. If you're familiar with radio stations, they used to have old 8-track tape-looking devices that would hold commercials, sometimes songs, that kind of stuff, and they would play them throughout the length of the DJ's show. This is kind of the same thing. We can load music into them. We can load commercials in them, sound effects, all kinds of stuff, and then we can utilize that with the mixer, which we have down here, and we can bring it live into our show. So it's there's a lot of things that you can do as you grow in this hobby, and it's very much the same as trying to grow in any hobby. I mean, whether you're into needlepoint, building houses, cars, it doesn't matter what you're into. If you're into a hobby, you know that there is an expense to that hobby, and it can only go up from there. I just want to have a quick look in the chat room, see if we've got any questions. Tanya says, I love your Spider-Man and Batman. Amnon says, I for streaming, one for streaming, live, audio only stream, one for Skype call-in, audio only, and one for TalkShoe, one to stream to Ustream. So he's using 4 different computers. He says he's got 5. Okay, he runs 5 different computers. So maybe we can have Amnon on in a future show, and he can really kind of take us through what he's using. And that's really kind of a great way to get to know what the gear is that people are using. What do you think?
Yeah. Even before I met you, Rich, the community for podcasting it's a pretty helpful community. I mean, everybody's there for the general goal.
Yeah, so, I agree.
Talk to people. Don't be don't be shy. Like, oh, this guy does a podcast and he's got a lot of viewers, I'm afraid to talk to him. Talk to people.
Yeah, you're right. There's great communities out there, and I want to stress again, the IAIB is a great community. It's all about internet broadcasting and podcasting. They've got an excellent forum. Go check it out. Ask questions. There's tons of people there to help you out. There's tons of Google Plus communities now that are out there to help you along your journey in podcasting. I actually am a member of 4 different podcasting communities. How many are you a member of?
I think I'm a member of 2 or 3.
They're telling me right now that Tech and Coffee Google Hangout is a friendly place to hang out, and they are right. If you've never been to the Tech and Coffee Google Hangout, I encourage you to check it out one day while you're having your coffee and you want to talk to some new people about podcasting, about technology. There's always somebody there that can answer your question, and if not, they know somebody that will be able to answer your question in a very short period of time. I've gotten a lot of help with Linux in that particular forum or community hangout. There's also internet podcasting or internet broadcasting resources. Amnon Nissan has a show each and every week that is called Computers 2K Now, and it can be found through a Google search. That show is on every Sunday morning. Check it out. It runs for about 4 hours. It starts at 8 or 9 a.m. in the morning. I think it's 9 a.m. in the morning it starts, Eastern Standard Time. And it runs for 4 hours. And, they talk about everything under the sun related to technology. If it is a podcasting that you want to talk about, great. Eileen says that She invites everyone here to join podcast technology and resource community on Google Plus. That is actually a very good one. I go there a lot myself. Have you ever visited
Yeah.
that one, Nick?
Yeah, that's the one. That's one of the ones that I'm part of.
And how do you find that one? Do you think there's a lot of good news there?
Yeah, there's a lot of good news there, but unfortunately for me, I'm not somebody that browses Google Plus too frequently, just because there's not a whole lot going on Google Plus besides these communities. So when I check it out, there's definitely good news on there.
Yeah, I kind of think so too. I think there's been some great stuff there, and I encourage everybody to go there, check it out, leave a comment, ask a question. There's tons of people there to help you, and that's what this show is really all about. You know, we talk about this being the art of podcasting, but there's so much to that. I mean, there's how to get started, how to, progress through, how to stay motivated. And we're going to talk about that in an upcoming episode as well. How do you stay motivated when you just feel like you don't have a big audience, or you don't think that you're getting all the downloads that you think you should, and you don't think that you're getting the monetization of your podcast like you think you should? Well, the reality is, and I hate to say this and dash everybody's hopes and dreams, get into podcasting because you have something to say. Don't get into podcasting because you want to make money, because making money in podcasting is very few and far between. There's a lot of programs out there that are great for helping you to bring in some sort of monetization. Every little bit helps as far as monetizing your website and your podcast go. There's things called affiliate programs, and we're going to discuss that a little bit later on. I was going to run a couple of interviews that were done by Fred Castaneda, but I think I'm going to run those next week before we start the roundtable. Next week, we are going to have a roundtable with some podcasters from around the country and all around North America, and hopefully one or two from overseas. We'll talk about how they got into podcasting, what they started with, where they've progressed to now. Is this a business for them? Is this a hobby for them? And what are you hoping for out of podcasting, Nick?
For me, the whole time, my overall goal is just to build a good, solid community. It's not to be a millionaire off this. It's to have a community that I can turn to with a problem or an idea or a thought and get a good response. And that's really what I'm working on every single day.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with that more. And Gregory says in the chat room, he says, do what you love and love what you do. And no truer words were spoken. And Duke says he likes to share his passion, and that's why he's doing it now. And, since I got involved with Duke and Tanya and Joey and the rest of the guys from the Tech and Coffee group, I got to say there's not been a more helpful group of people out on the net than those guys over at Tech and Coffee. And if you haven't checked them out, and I know I keep pushing these guys, but go over, check them out, techandcoffee.info. It's well worth the look into them. Eileen as well, she's got a podcast. Eileen, please remind me again of what the name of your podcast is, so we can give it a little plug here tonight. Eileen, actually, I did a hangout with Eileen a couple of weeks ago, and it was really kind of an impromptu hangout. She invited me to join her, and I got to say, I had a great time, and she's a great host, man. If you haven't met her, I encourage you to go and check out Miss Eileen Speaks at HTTP or, MSILEANESPEAKS.com. That's MissEileenSpeaks.com. So check that out. Check out her podcast. She's a great gal, and she has a lot of great things to say. Also, check out Duke and the rest of the crew over at Tech and Coffee for Tech News Week, which happens every Thursday night. And funny thing, I'm going to be hosting that show tomorrow night, which is I'm kind of excited about. I get to, moderate all these guys instead of being a part of the discussion. I get to tell them when to shut up, which is kind of nice. Oh, Mike Phillips just joined the chat room here. Welcome, Mike. So tell me, what are some of your favorite podcasts that you listen to, Nick? And why do you listen to them?
Well, I would say one of my favorites is probably the Free for All from the guys from Queen's Network.
Right.
Personally, that's just one of my favorites, just because it's so laid back. And I'll really listen to anything. I'm not limited to just technology podcasts. I'll listen to anything for me. I like listening to a podcast that's a little more laid back. I'm not a big fan of listening to a podcast that's so, news story, no time for discussion. Let's just read off the news stories. So if you have a more laid back podcast, I'd probably be more keen to listen to it.
I'm kind of the same way. I like those kind of laid back podcasts myself. There's a great podcast every Monday at 6 Mountain Time. It's called Android Journal. If you're an Android fan, I encourage you to go check that out. Speaking of Android styled podcasts, you've got a brand new one coming up real soon, don't you?
Yeah, I'm starting a new podcast soon called The Slice of Pie, PI, that is, and it's a podcast built around the Raspberry Pi microcomputer. And it's we're going to try to take this $35 microcomputer and find uses inside of podcasting, like things that you can use it for.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that, because me, I'm looking at Arduinos and I'm looking at Raspberry Pi. I want to find a new way to control my new favorite little box here. Now that Mike Phillips is here, I want to ask Mike about microphones really quickly while he's in the chat room. If you can hear me okay, Mike, I just want to ask you if, in fact, you could pick any microphone to start podcasting with, what would be the first microphone you recommended to somebody just wanting to get into podcasting? I think I know what his answer is going to be. He's asking XLR or USB. What about both? Wouldn't you recommend both? Something that has both those inputs?
Yeah, especially just because you can buy USB and use it, and then you don't have to, completely scrap the microphone and buy a new one when you want to upgrade to an XLR mixer.
Mike Phillips says the ATR 2100. I got to say, I knew that was coming. Mike, he's the man. If you are interested in learning more about microphones and why you should get one over another, and Mike will tell you this, and I don't think he'll be too upset if I tell people that if you've got the budget for a higher price microphone, go and buy it if you want it. But if you want to get started and you don't have a lot of money to spend, the AT2005 or the ATR 2100 are two of the best microphones that you can buy for the money right now. Mike says Heil PR40 or EV RE20, which is the Electro Voice RE20. If you've got the money, go and buy those microphones. I think they're great microphones, and eventually at one time we may get them too. What about you? Are you going to move up in microphones as you progress in your podcasting career?
That's something that people have asked me, because I'm this is like a $45 microphone. So for me personally, I don't see myself moving to, I don't think that there'll be anything between this and, a PR40 or an RE20. If I upgrade from this, it's going to be to a lot of a higher end microphone.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you there. If you have real money, try a Sennheiser MKH 416, Mike says. Yeah, if you've got real money. Yeah, we don't have Mike's budget, so we also don't have his museum of microphones. I tend to go online with Mike every once in a while, and he'll ask me if I can hear differences in different microphones. And I got to say that a lot of the times I do hear the difference, but that's because my ears are attuned to it, and I'll say which one sounds better for internet broadcasting, which one would sound better for traditional studio broadcasting. And Mike and I usually don't disagree. He might say that, we do, but I don't think we do for the most part. Eileen, thank you for joining us this evening. It was a lot of fun having you. And does anybody have any questions about microphones, mixers, audio processors? We'll just give you a minute to respond to that in the chat room.
This is completely off topic, but I've got this this little 7-inch tablet here, and I downloaded. I don't know if you're familiar with. There's an app for a Time Warner Cable, and you can watch TV on Wi-Fi. And this is full 720p video. Let's see if I can show you this right here. That's some decent quality video over
Wow.
Wi-Fi. Yeah, it's really HD. I mean, I can see it perfectly.
Now, Dennis makes a good point here in the chat room. He says, a more expensive mic also doesn't necessarily mean it's better. Quite often, it's just a different type of sound. And you're absolutely right about that, Dennis. And Mike will agree with me on that as well, that it is a different sound. Some mics are suited better for your voice. I know for myself, the SM7, the Shure SM7, which you'll find in a lot of radio stations, absolutely is horrible with my voice. I don't like it. It is too bottom end for me. I already have a low, deep voice, so it's really hard for me to use something that's got a lot of bottom end in it already. And I think that going to a microphone, maybe like a Heil PR40, I don't think I need one. This microphone is going to suit me for many, many years to come. But I think that if you've got the money, yeah, buy a Heil PR40 or buy yourself an RE20 from Electro Voice.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing that people make a mistake of is they'll go and they'll watch the Leo Laportes and they'll see, wow, look at his microphone. I need to have that same thing, and then my show will be as successful as he is.
You know, I agree with you on that. Too many people out there look at people like Leo Laporte and the podcast answer man. What is his name? Cliff Ravenscraft. Yeah, they'll listen to people like these guys. And Cliff, no insult intended to the man, but he tends to push a lot of product because that's how he makes money. I mean, and the bottom line is, get what's good for you, get what fits into your budget. Don't listen to anybody else that says, oh, you have to spend this number of dollars to get started in podcasting. I can tell you from my own personal experience, a pair of $30 headphones, an $80 microphone, an internet connection, in my laptop, guess what? I'm podcasting. That's
$30.
Yeah, that's all I paid for my headphones.
You can buy this mic for $40 on Amazon and buy a $10 pair of earbuds, and you are perfectly set to internet broadcast.
Absolutely, that's true.
People come into this and they see the price of, you know, desktop PCs and these really expensive microphones. If you already have a computer and internet connection, you can be live on the internet with a decent webcam, a microphone like this, and a pair of headphones for under $100.
Okay, here's a question then. Do you really need a webcam?
Yes, and I think the reason is because more and more people are watching video now because bandwidth is getting faster and faster. So, you know, here's the thing. If you're going to be streaming on a site like Justin TV or Ustream or Livestream, there's a video element already there. It's not going to hurt you just to turn on a webcam. You don't have to be actively looking at it, but just put it in the corner so that if people do want to watch you while you're doing your broadcast, they can.
That's a good point. That's a good point. You don't necessarily have to do a broadcast like we're doing with the green screen. And I hope Amnon's feeling a little jealous tonight because I have a green screen. I don't have that slick, control room that he's got on the Enterprise behind him. But, I took my cues from Amnon. I've got to get myself a new suit, though. What do you think?
I thought he was really sitting behind a server room.
Well, I kind of thought he was too, but Amnon's
when I first saw Amnon's, yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go.
I was gonna say when I first saw the Computers 2K Now broadcast for the first time, I legitimately thought he was sitting behind those.
Did you really?
Yeah, I did. Well, I really did.
I kind of knew that it was green screen, and I got to say that I really like the way Amnon does his show. Actually, his is not green screen. Surprisingly enough, his is blue screen because his flight suit is green. The flight suit that Amnon Nissan typically wears is green, and I think that having the blue background is easy for him to key out. What I find funny sometimes, though, is when he's in the chat room with us, or we're doing a Google Hangout, and he's got the whole green screen thing going, or the chroma key going. He's wearing a blue shirt, so it looks like his head's floating inside of his his suit. So there's something not to do. Don't wear the same color as your chroma key background. And I'm going to give you another shot of that here. Let me just go here. So you can see behind me, this is a green cloth that we've put up. We've lit it. We actually have 1, 2, 3, 5 lights lighting up that backdrop. So it looks as even as it can. Now, going back to this shot, of course, if I turn off the picture, you're going to see the green screen behind me. Oh, Tanya says the Stampeder shirt rocks. I should probably wear this every show now. What do you think? Should I just be a Stampeders fan every show?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't think so.
Yeah. And going back to that, wearing the same color, like if I was to do a green screen with the color shirt that I have on right now, I mean, I'd lose this whole shirt.
That's right.
Pick a color like Amnon picked blue. Pick a color that you don't have a lot of shirts of. And for me, I don't have a lot of lime green shirts, so that's something to go with. And also, you don't need to spend a lot of money. This whole sheet was $8. And
Yeah.
I've got another spool of it behind me. $8 for a perfectly good green screen. And also, I'm using, see if I can find it. I'm using these little Velcro strips. So I've got the Velcro stapled on to the green screen, and then I've got Velcro on the wall, and I can just I hang it up, and then I can just take it right down. There was no need to mount it or anything.
Yeah, I kind of went the other route. I stapled mine up. Well, I'm in the basement here.
See, for me, yeah, like for me, I didn't always want to have it behind me because it's not too long. It only covers from about here to here, so the rest of my background you can still see, but I normally just crop that out.
Yeah, so that's another thing we should probably mention. You don't have to go to this extreme to do a good internet broadcast. And I agree with what they're saying here in the chat room that a good co-host makes all the difference. I mean, if I just sat here like I did in the first show and just rambled on and tried to take questions in the chat room, which became very, very distracting for me in the very first episode that we did, I found that having a co-host is somebody that you can, bounce your ideas off of. What do you think?
Yeah, but the one thing I've had an issue is you have to make sure that your co-host is dedicated to what you're doing, because personally for me, I've had the issue with co-hosts not skipping out, but showing up 5 minutes before my show's supposed to go live. So when picking a co-host, make sure it's somebody that is passionate about the same thing that you are, and that you can rely on to be there.
I agree with you. Now, they're talking about my wardrobe here in the chat room, and my good friend Michael Richards, my good childhood friend, he's saying I need a Thompson King Miners jersey. I tell you what, if you send me one of those, I will definitely wear it on the show. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I will definitely wear one on the show. And with that being said, I think we're almost wrapped up. What say you got anything you want to add before we wrap it up for tonight?
No, just the one thing I just want to stress again is buy what's in your budget.
Yeah, I agree. Decide on what your budget's going to be, but first decide on what content you want to do. If you've got a passion for podcasting and there's something that you've got a message that you want to get out, work on that first. Let the equipment come later. Record some episodes. Get used to hearing your own voice. These are all things I'm going to repeat time and time again to kind of drill them into you. Do some sample episodes. I'm used to getting behind the microphone, so it's not a big deal for me to just kind of sit here, flip things on, and start yapping away. But that being said, I would say that if you are going to start your own podcast, whether it be if you've got a passion for hockey, football, building cars, building model cars, fishing like my good friend Michael, or anything along that line, and you want to talk about it on the World Wide Web, a podcast is a great way to do that. And we encourage you to get out there, let your creative juices flow, and we hope to see you again on the internet. How about you, Nick?
Well, I didn't hear what you said. You broke up.
Oh, okay. I said, what about you, Nick? Dennis says he doesn't want to talk about karaoke.
Wait, are you just talking about like what people should be broadcasting?
Yeah. If you've got a passion for it, how do you get started, and why should you get started?
Well, like you said, have a passion. Don't be somebody that I don't know a lot about technology, but I want to do a technology podcast because I see people like Leo Laporte doing it, and
Right.
he's making money from it. So people will easily catch on to your fakeness, and they'll be able to tell, well, this guy has absolutely no clue what he's talking about, and he's just sitting up here and just throwing bogus information at us for an hour.
That's right. Now, Mike says, oh, I'm knocking things over on my desk here. It's crashing down. Mike says, get 10 shows in the can before you release your first one. And you know what? I agree with that 100%. I think that get used to hearing your voice. Those first 10 episodes, you may never, ever release them. You may just get used to the tone of your voice, the rhythm in which you speak. You may make notes for yourself. We typically make notes here. We didn't do any show notes this week because we had an idea of what we were talking about from last week. We just kind of carried that conversation over. But definitely do that. You can talk about Zumba dancing if you're a Zumba person or somebody that's into Zumba. If you're like Mike Phillips and you're a microphone guru, you can do a podcast about microphones. So the sky's the limit. Whatever your passion is, go out, do it, and we hope to see you on the internet. For Podcast U, I'm Richard Cleveland, and with me this week again is Mr. Nick Craig from RadarGaming.net. Tell us where people can find you on the internet.
That's about it. Go check out RadarGaming.net. I just started a brand new gaming YouTube channel, and you can find the links to that at my website at RadarGaming.net, and I'm also at Gamecast Live on Twitter.
There you go. So go check out Nick's gaming podcast. Definitely worthwhile, and you can catch Nick sometimes during the week, just gaming, and he'll be talking to folks in the chat room on his website while he's playing a game. Isn't that right, Nick?
Yeah, and I think that's a pretty cool experience, is because you know, it doesn't necessarily, you don't have to be interested in the game, because I'm just generally talking about whatever the chat room's talking about. So I'm gonna be playing the game anyway, so I turn on a camera, and then, you know, I have a good conversation with people.
There you go. And you can find me each and every week. Tuesday nights, we have Popcorn Lobby here at the Naked Ape Productions Network, and that starts at 7:30 Mountain Standard Time, and that would be 9:30 on the East Coast and 6:30 on the Pacific Coast. You can find me here every Wednesday night, of course, talking about podcasting at Podcast U. Next week, we are going to have a round table. I've got the invites. Will be going out tomorrow for next week's show. And Nick, you'll be there, right?
I will most certainly be there.
And I'm hoping Mike Phillips and Amnon Nissan are also going to join us next week. And, so I'm putting that out there for them right now. So mark your calendars next Wednesday, fellas. I'm hoping to have you as part of the round table, and we're going to talk a little bit about podcasting. We'll get into some of the do's and don'ts. We'll talk about people's experiences as they got started. And then, of course, in February, we're going to start a new little series on Wirecast, which is a tool that you can use as a podcaster if you want to do a video broadcast like we do here. And then we are going to explore in March, we're going to start to explore how you can use Linux as a podcasting tool. And we hope to see you here again next week for the roundtable, which will happen once a month, every month, and we'll see you then. So from Podcast U, I'm Richard Cleveland. We'll see you next week.